Okay, so have you ever wondered how just one single policy change, like for one specific U.S. visa, could completely ripple outwards and basically change the whole game for how a global competitor recruits the world's best talent?
Oh, it's more than a ripple, I'd say. It's like a strategic tremor shaking things up. We're right in the middle of this really intense competition for high-skilled people, particularly in STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math.
Right, the AI race is fueling so much of this.
Exactly. And what we're seeing now is the collision of two totally opposite visa approaches from the world's two biggest economies. It's creating this sort of global talent vacuum.
Okay, let's dig into that collision then. What we want to do today is compare these, while dramatic new hurdles for getting into the USA for skilled workers,
Yeah.
compare that with China's really aggressive new open door policy. It seems aimed squarely at grabbing that same talent.
And figure out what it all means. Yeah. For the future of AI development globally.
So the spark for this whole thing, it seems, was a pretty sudden major shift with the U.S. H-1B visa. Now, you probably know this visa. It's the one tech companies really rely on to bring in international workers.
The bedrock for many.
Yeah. And traditionally, the cost for a company to sponsor someone, it was, manageable, around $5,000 maybe?
That's the key word. That time is gone. The cost has just skyrocketed. We're hearing figures, once you factor in all the fees, the legal stuff, the new surcharges,
Hmm.
it's often hitting $100,000
Wow. Okay, wait. $100,000 per employee?
per sponsored employee. Yeah,
That's a 20-fold increase practically overnight.
it's huge. And it's not just about the money. It fundamentally breaks business models.
Especially for those big multinational tech firms, right? Like the outsourcing giants, many from India. They used H-1Bs for rotations all the time.
Precisely. Their whole cost structure, their global mobility strategy was built around that relatively low-cost, predictable visa system, this new six-figure fee. It's a massive deterrent.
So the U.S. position is what? This pushes companies to hire Americans instead.
That's the stated goal, yes.
Yeah.
Encourage hiring U.S. residents for these high-value jobs. But, the reality is the market demands very specific skills, and they aren't always easy to find locally, especially at the scale needed.
And we should be clear, we're not talking about just any workers here. This is top-tier talent, the people actually building the future, right?
Yeah.
The coders, data scientists, the engineers working on the really advanced stuff.
Absolutely critical to underscore why this talent pool is so valuable. These STEM graduates, they're compensated so well because they drive innovation. They create disproportionate economic value. Simple as that.
Can we put some numbers on that? Like how much more valuable, realistically?
Okay, well, on average, someone with a STEM degree earns about $19,000 more per year than the average worker, and the median salary. It's well over $100,000 for STEM roles. Compare that to around $47,000 for non-STEM jobs. It's a huge gap.
100,000 median.
And it's about future growth, too. STEM jobs are projected to grow over 8% annually for the next decade or so. So when a company suddenly has to shell out an extra $100 just to hire one of these people.
The profit margin on that hire just tanks.
Exactly. It makes them immediately start looking around for other options, alternatives.
Okay, so the U.S. store gets way more expensive, way harder to open, adding to the difficulty of just winning the visa lottery in the first place. That creates an immediate vacuum, strategically speaking.
And nature and geopolitics abhor a vacuum. They don't last long.
Enter China.
Precisely. China was clearly ready, poised even. Which brings us straight to their countermove, this new K visa. It's set to launch October 1st, 2025.
And this isn't just another visa category tweak, is it? It sounds targeted.
Oh, it's absolutely a calculated strategic response directly aimed at the H-1B changes.
Okay, so how does it directly undercut the U.S. system? What are the key differences?
The contrast is pretty stark and likely deliberate. The U.S. H-1B system requires that employer sponsorship. It's complex, burdensome, and now, as we said, incredibly expensive. The K visa, it just flips that entirely. No job offer needed, no employer sponsorship required for the graduate to apply.
Hold on. So let's say I'm a fresh PhD in AI from, I don't know, Germany. I can just apply to go to China based on my skills without a job lined up.
That's the idea. That's the flexibility they're offering. It removes that whole financial and legal hurdle for companies wanting to eventually hire them and for the individual wanting to explore opportunities.
That's pretty radical for a major economy.
It really is. And the cost. While the final details are still coming, it's expected to be very low, maybe a few $1,000s, perhaps even less. Designed specifically to attract new graduates who might not have deep pockets.
And what can you do on this K visa? Is it restrictive like the H-1B?
Quite the opposite, actually. The scope seems really broad. Research, teaching, cultural exchange, starting a business, incubation, and critically, AI development. Compare that to the H-1B, which basically locks you into that specific job with that specific sponsor.
Much more freedom then. And what about numbers? The H-1B is capped at 85,000 a year plus that lottery frustration.
Another key difference. The K visa seems designed to avoid that bottleneck. China hasn't announced a hard cap. The signal suggests it'll be much more open, based on demand and qualifications. They seem to want as many top people as they can attract.
Who are they targeting specifically?
It's quite clear. Recent STEM grads, international researchers, postdocs, young academics, tech entrepreneurs, anyone in those cutting-edge fields. It's basically a full-court press for global AI and advanced engineering talent.
Okay, but here's the thing that feels confusing. Maybe you can explain this. China's actively recruiting foreign graduates while dealing with significant youth unemployment at home, right? Didn't we see figures like 18, 19% for 16 to 24-year-olds?
That's the paradox, yes. And it's a really important point. Why import talent when millions of your own graduates are looking for work? The answer boils down to a massive skills mismatch. Meaning China does have a huge number of local graduates, maybe 12 million new ones expected in 2025. But a large portion of them have degrees in fields that China's economy doesn't urgently need right now at that scale. Think literature, general social sciences, certain types of business degrees.
So it's not a lack of graduates, but a lack of graduates in the specific high-tech fields they're prioritizing.
Exactly. They have a real acute shortage in those cutting-edge areas crucial to their national strategy. We're talking AI specialists, advanced semiconductor designers, biotech researchers, complex energy engineers. The K visa is laser-focused on filling that specific gap.
So it's not just about filling jobs at specific companies. This feels bigger, part of a larger strategy.
Oh, absolutely. This K visa signals at least two major strategic ambitions, I think. First, internationalization. China's historically been relatively inward-looking regarding global talent flow. By actively bringing in people with overseas experience, especially recent grads and researchers, they're trying to fast-track global collaboration, build research partnerships, and frankly, change their image. They want to be seen as a dynamic, open hub for innovation.
Okay, internationalization. What's the second goal?
The second is tackling the reverse brain drain. This is huge for them. Think about it. Thousands upon thousands of top Chinese students go abroad to study, especially to places like the U.S., get these amazing STEM qualifications, and then many of them decide not to go back home after graduation. They settle in Silicon Valley or London or wherever.
So the K visa makes it super easy, cheap, and flexible for them to return. Maybe start a company or find a research post without immediate pressure.
Precisely. It's a direct appeal to lure back that national talent that settled overseas. Ultimately, both goals serve their ambition in AI. By making it easier for the world's brightest, both foreign and returning Chinese nationals, they're signaling loud and clear. We want to catch up and eventually lead in AI, competing with the U.S., with companies like NVIDIA.
So China's got the policy, the low cost, the ambition, but what about the reality on the ground, the actual experience of moving there? The U.S. has this massive, decades-long history of immigration, right? A whole culture built around it.
That's America's sort of soft power advantage. It's immense. You've got over 30 million non-U.S. born people in the workforce. For generations, it's been seen as the place to go for career success, the American dream, established communities, support networks.
Compared to China,
The numbers tell a story. China has about 1.4 million immigrants total, out of 1.4 billion people. Historically, it just hasn't been on the radar as a long-term destination for most global workers looking to emigrate.
So what's the single biggest hurdle China faces then? If they make the visa cheap and easy, what still stops people?
One word: language, without a doubt.
Mandarin.
Right. The U.S. mainly operates in English. English is taught widely. It's often the default in science and tech globally. Professionals from India, Europe, elsewhere often already have strong English skills. China requires Mandarin for, well, pretty much everything outside maybe very specific international bubbles.
And Mandarin isn't typically taught widely in the West or used as the primary second language in global business?
Not at all. Learning it from scratch is a huge undertaking. Personally, professionally. It's a massive time commitment just to navigate daily life, let alone complex work environments.
So that, plus maybe cultural differences,
Right.
it adds a layer of difficulty the U.S. doesn't really have for many skilled immigrants.
Exactly. It raises the perceived risk and complexity for potential applicants and their families, even if visa itself is simple.
Okay, so it all comes down to this new calculation, doesn't it? Especially for those big tech employers, maybe those Indian firms you mentioned.
They're facing a really stark choice now. On one hand, you've got the massive cost, the potential $100K hit for the U.S. H-1B, plus the uncertainty to the lottery. On the other, you have China's K-visa. Practically free, seemingly frictionless application, much more flexible.
So they have to weigh that huge cost saving against the familiarity of the U.S., the easier language situation, the established immigrant culture.
That's the calculation. Is the cost saving big enough to overcome the language barrier, the cultural adaptation challenges, the relative lack of established immigrant infrastructure in China? How international companies answer that question will really determine how successful China's K-visa strategy turns out to be.
It really is fascinating how quickly the ground can shift in this global talent race.
Yep.
One policy lever pulled in the U.S.
The H-1B cost hike.
And immediately it creates this opening that China jumps into, specifically targeting that critical AI talent pool.
It shows just how sensitive talent migration can be to these big financial incentives or disincentives.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on.
Yeah, think about this. For decades, the U.S. has kind of coasted on its cultural magnetism, right? The American dream, the English language advantage. That's drawn the best and brightest. But what if the sheer cost of acquiring talent starts to outweigh that cultural pull? If that financial calculation becomes the main driver for global companies deciding where to place their valuable STEM employees, could the ease and affordability of China's K-visa eventually start to erode that long-held U.S. advantage, even with the language and cultural hurdles?
A really critical question, and one that companies worldwide are grappling with right now.